Alright, so I've gotten asked how you really construct a tree. So what I'm going to do is I've already built some stuff in my scene here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just build a plane here. And it doesn't matter what size the plane is. This looks okay. So I'm going to just make it square, so 30 by 30. And I'm going to do 4 segments, and I'll show you why in a second. So what I'm going to do is, I didn't like that. Undo. Alright, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my maps, and I've already got a map here, and it's set up very similar to the other one, black diffuse channel. The map itself is a TIFF, and it's got an opacity map on it. So the alpha channel is actually the green stuff, which would be not colored in the channel itself, and then the black stuff here is just the texture. And as you can see, I just made a blank texture just for general purposes. So what you're going to do is apply this texture to your object. And looking at this texture now, I'm going to just get rid of grids here. Now looking at this texture, one of the things that you can do is I've got multiple pieces here. So what you can do is convert this to an editable poly. And I'm just going to grab these, and we're just going to scroll down here, and I'm going to detach to its own object. This I'm going to detach to its own object. This I'm going to detach to its own object. And then this is the original. So with this, the first thing I'm going to do is clean up the geometry. So I'm going to go here, control backspace, and then I'm going to go into the pivot point, effect pivot, go to center to object, and then for this one I'm going to move it down to the branch, and I'll explain that in a second. This one I'm going to just go effect pivot, center to object. This one here I'm going to move it in roughly the middle, and then this one here I'm going to move it to be somewhat near this peak here. And of course I would play with this a little bit, and these are just real quick and dirty textures. So again, we go in here. If you want, you can tweak some of the stuff. You can go in here and clean up this. It really depends on what kind of poly count you're looking at. But for that all intensive purposes, now this I can actually move away off to the side, and undo that. Let's just grab that like so, hold in shift, and so hold in shift, and hold in shift. So essentially somewhat similar to this, and then you just kind of build your polygons and so forth. So that's pretty much that particular piece right there. And then I would just simply scroll down, attach, and so on and so forth. So there's my one piece, and of course my UVs are a little bit off. I need to clean up some of that stuff, but you get the idea. This one here, I would snap it up to its 90-degree point, make sure my object here is two-sided so you can see both sides, and that works. And then basically move this off to the side, and again we're just going to really quickly create a couple of these, and there's your grass bundle here. So that's how you do that, and of course I would go through and attach it just like this one. Now if we're going to do the tree here, I'm going to just take a cylinder, and all I've done is create some splines here. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the top here, go extrude along spline, and that's going to pop up this dialog box. And the first thing I'm going to do is pick my spline, which is this guy right there. I'm going to add in some taper here, like so, and it looks like I'm not going to even worry about that stuff. So that's okay, and I can control my segments. So the more segments I add, of course, the better off your thing will be. And I'm just going to say okay. So that's the first one. And then once that's done, what you need to do is, I've got all these other splines in here. What I would do, so let's look at this guy right here. So because this is an Editable Poly, I'm going to go up here, ring this one, and chamfer the edge so I have a little bit more geometry in there, like so. And then pick an area that you actually, let's undo this. Let's when I chamfer this, I'm going to do 2 pieces of geometry, and I'm just going to chamfer that out like so. So that gives me the extra geometry in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick 4 polygons, and I'm going to delete those faces, and I'm going to pick my edge border here, and I'm going to add a spherify modifier on there. So like that, and I can control the percentage, and I can, but that's a real quick fix. Collapse all, yes. And then let's go in, and I'm going to just move this a little bit over, scale it just a hair down, like so. And from there, I'm going to, actually, I shouldn't have deleted that, but we can really quickly grab this, and we can really quickly cap that in there, and cut like so. So grab these 4, and we're going to extrude from along spline. And again, I always do the settings, because if I don't like the way something looks, I can manipulate it. Now that looks good, so I'm going to just leave that one there. Say okay, and then, just go in, and I can do the same thing over and over and over. So I'm gonna go to Editable Poly here, or go to edge mode. And chamfer, say OK. Again, I would go in and manipulate the edges here. You can spherify, but I'm just going to go in here, grab these 4, and just really quickly do a scale till I get a rough round shape. And then I'm going to, again, extrude along edge, extrude along spline here. So this, pick this spline, -1, hit OK, and then basically do let's grab this right here. And scale this somewhat round, move, and again extrude along spline, pick this one, so on and so forth. And if you want, you can add more in there. It really boils down to kind of how you want your geometry. Chamfer, let's go with a little bit bigger, like so. Again, scale, extrude along spline, and let's do that. And so, okay, so you get the point. So then once you're done with that, you've got this piece here, and you're gonna pretty much move this, and what you can do is right click on the snap to grids, and if you want you can snap to face, like so. And let's just move, let's start off by moving it to let's actually change this up real quick and snap it to vertexes and face, so we can actually just grab this and start off with that. So I've got this piece here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start moving these, and I don't need the snap for now. I'm just kind of creating a small cluster, and you just kind of have to move around and kind of decide what you want it to look like. Now, I'm just going to copy one over here and put it off to the side. But I can take this one here and attach these other pieces like so. And then toss my angle snaps in and hold down Shift and move this over here, and then rotate this around so that it fits better on that. And let's move this one over here, snap that like so. Again, move it till you feel like it looks good. And as you can see, as I do this, the more and more I do this, the more and more your snaps that and snap, and I'm just gonna grab these again, move them around. So as you can see, simply by moving this stuff, I'm getting more and more of a realistic tree. Now, of course, I've got, problems. So what you can do, sorry about that phone call. So what you can do is slowly move all this stuff along the area, and as you can see that those branches fill up quite a bit, and as you move them out and about, the more they fill up the branch, the more it looks like an actual tree. Now, one of the things that you really want to pay attention to is the fact that right now these are just single plane objects, and again they have texture issues and stuff like that, and you're going to spend a lot more time doing that sort of thing. But one of the things that you want to pay attention to is your poly count, because right now with just all this stuff in the scene the way it is, my poly count's at about 426, and for a game I would say no more than 1,000 polys to be on the high LOD tree. And there's a lot of things that you can do to manipulate your geometry. You can go in and the reason I added this in here is I want to extrude that for a trunk and stuff like that. But you can go in and you can collapse some of this geometry. Let me take my snaps off here. So you can go in and get rid of some of these angles. Not that. All right, so you can go in and clean up things like this and add in a lot more different stuff in there to get the way you want your tree looking. And then once you're done with adding in all these additional little quadrants and stuff, if you will, be sure to save yourself some time and energy and attach them. So you would attach all these clusters to be together, like so, somewhat like that. So you'd attach all these clusters to be together like this, and then what you can do is attach your tree. Once you're finally done with your tree, and your tree can have a separate texture that's tileable, just make sure you unwrap it properly or texture it properly. And then so when you attach your tree, everyone thinks, okay, you're done. Well, if I want So I'm going to just move this. First of all, I'm going to move this pivot point to center to object, line to world, and then I'm going to snap it down here so that the tree, oops, undo. There we go. So that the affect the pivot. So now that I can move this tree around. But so I've got this tree here, and then by adding a simple FFD box on there, you can manipulate the control points and squash the tree. And move the tree branches out and manipulate the tree so that it looks a little bit differently. Like so. And so you can go in and manipulate your tree a little bit more, and then you have extra, additional trees. Though they're all going to look very similar because the branch pattern is the same, or pretty much the same. So, all right, I hope that helps out.